I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
When it comes to starting up new games, there's a point in every gamer decides whether or not to continue the game they already paid for. Sometimes that game reminds them of another game they could be playing instead. Other times, it might just not have that right moment happen just yet. Sometimes it might just be lacking that something special that hooks the player in. Maybe it's a moment that they wander the open world, or maybe the right mission hasn't started yet. I think the opening hours of a game is the most crucial moment in selling the game beyond the initial purchase. So how does Saints Row the Third stack up, and when does that right moment come in? The story is pretty straightforward. The Saints have become media icons to start the game off with you, Johnny, Bert, who is currently researching a role for a movie, and Shaundi as you go rob a bank. Problem is, this has become a tad too routine that goes more like an inconvenience, much like stubbing your toe on your bed frame on the way to your nightly routine to make out with your pillow right before going to bed. Instead of actually, robbing the place at gunpoint, double instead. The place is owned and defended by the Syndicate, the new main rival gang you will be dealing with, and the hijinks arrive a little late to work. You are then arrested and picked up by the head of the Syndicate to work out a business arrangement, only to then lose Johnny and get stranded in the new city the game takes place in, Steelport. You are left with nothing more than the clothes off your backs and the information currently sober Shaundi has when she was high out of her mind. And then you raid an armory and begin to avenge the loss of Johnny. The reason I mentioned in the opener that the right moment or the right mission to sell you the game is simply because one mission that sold me this game is when I first played the game. For me, that mission was the fifth one of the game called Party Time. Now, I'm a fan of hard rock and heavy metal, and at the time, I was leaning more on punk like Rise Against and ska punk like Straight Light Manifesto. But hearing Kanye West's Power start up with the prompt to jump out of the helicopter and parachute onto the penthouse and open fire,
do it better than anybody you ever seen. Do it, screams from the haters, got a nice ring to it. I guess every superhero need his theme music. No one man should have all that power.
Touchdown. Shaundi, I'll get the elevator code and let you up soon.
Just give the word, boss.
I'm tripping off the power. Some broken schools closed, doors open. We ain't got nothing to lose, motherfucker, we rollin'. Motherfucker, we rollin'. With some light-skinned girls and some petty rolls.
song choice is critical when working with licensed music in media. So to get the vibes and the tone just right for the player is insanely crucial to selling the experience. But I felt powerful, like I was turning the tables on the villains suddenly when making such a huge move against them. The touchdown with the song playing and taking the first shot made all the tutorial missions, all the grunt work in the beginning worth it. To this day, I replay the game just for this specific moment and try to finish the penthouse section of the level before the song ends so the whole ride hits, because the song that plays right after this falls a little flat on its face and the energy damn near evaporates, and only the action itself carries the rest of the level when you get onto the helicopter and chase down a gang member who knows how to dismantle the bomb that's about to blow up the penthouse. The whole game is like this. You were given some grunt work to deal with and plenty of time to prepare for the bigger moments of the game. Although for me, this is the biggest moment of the game because of Kanye West's Power, and how the other missions, with exception to the three-way, fail to make the most of the licensed catalog. The mixtape function allows you to see the full list of songs, and you could probably see where some songs line up better for major sections of the game And it's a disappointment that not many other missions utilize this mission's audio design. The game has a stacked amount of tracks that could benefit the rest of the game, but rarely does. Again, only 2 missions actually do this to my memory, and it's a shame because of how big bands like Black Veil Brides became after this game. Not to attribute success to them because of Saints Row, but Perfect Weapon was a huge hit for me, and would have worked wonders throughout many moments of the game. Powder is a good example.
Whoever's in charge here probably knows where to find your way. Then let's get to the office and find them.
Another example would be Marilyn Manson's Armagoddamn Motherfucking Geddon during the zombie mission as you explore the newly dubbed island for Mayor Burt Reynolds.
How are you so calm about this? What, zombies? They're always the same. Squishy when shot. Lucky you've ever dealt with a zombie before. So you haven't been talking to Kinsey? Good. What? I didn't say anything. Get out of here!
Now, this game isn't as big as or as impactful as, say, Grand Theft Auto or Silent Hill. But, for what it's trying to do, it's pretty solid. The plot is set, the stakes are established, and if you played Saints Row 1 and 2, then you have more personal reasons to get into the fight, although there is some minor things the game doesn't tell you, like stuck ramps, GPS shortcuts, or even the phone calls you get to protect the sections on the map that you've claimed for the Saints. None of that is as crazy important, and if you mess around in the world outside of missions and activities, then you will encounter these things naturally. And they aren't that important for completion anyway, and that includes the upgrade system that isn't mentioned in the tutorial section either, and I was able to beat that game a couple times without upgrades for a couple previous runs. The game starts on the right foot and sets itself up nicely. So much so, it got remade instead of remastering the other Saints Row games. And you do kind of take in that first couple tutorial sections as the game's first level or that first section. Then, yeah, it has a fair lot to set up. It has a fair lot of things that it still needs to explain. It has a fair lot of things it still needs to worry about, and it feels a little undercooked. The game just feels a little underwhelming and underprepared if you consider party time to not be the start of the game. And that's why I argue party time is the start of the game, because it's that huge payoff for getting through all the exposition, all the grunt work, and kind of figuring out the major aspects of the game. So in a way of thinking about it, when you first boot up the game, up until you hit around, say, Powder or Party Time, that is the opening section of just purely tutorial and purely plot establishment. So, it all depends on how you answer that question. Do you consider Party Time to be the actual beginning of the game, welcoming you into the actual world and chaos that is Saints Row 3's Steelport? Or do you consider a different point, an earlier point, to be the actual beginning of the game?